Welcome back to another episode of the ToD Podcast. I'm here with the fellas. It is just us today, man. We got some things to talk about. But before we even get into that, man, because uh we finally got a disagreement. We talked about that shit like 2 weeks ago, bro. We don't, for some reason, we always on the same page, y'all. But before we even get into the Julio Jones discussion, man, I want to check in with y'all, man. AJ, you had a motherfucking weekend, man. You had a good weekend, bro. So talk to me, man. How you feeling? And are you recovered? It's Tuesday. You should be recovered, but you know what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, I'm good. I'm good, man. It was a good weekend. Got to introduce some of the new guys to the team, to the area a little bit. Won't say their names, but
Yep.
good time playing with them, building with them. Hopefully we'll have some of them come on the show real soon here. But other than that, it was a blessed weekend, man. Fortunate to make it a Tuesday and hopefully the rest of the week.
Yes, sir. Another day, another blessing, man. I'm happy to hear it. Dre, how you feeling, man? You had a little radio drop earlier today, man. I tuned in, man. You feeling good today, boss?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I joined JP and B Mitch for a couple of minutes on their show on 106.7 The Fan to do a celebrity. It was a guessing game or something, but it was cool.
Yeah, they called you a celebrity guest. Yeah. Don't no. They called you a celebrity guest, bro. You famous out here, bro.
I wanted to be like, no, not me. I'm just
hey, look, I'm about to. That's the headline for this show. Is famous Dre. I don't know. We're gonna jazz it up a little bit. Make sure people know who we dealing with on this show. But everything good though.
It was cool. It was fun. To get on there. Everything's good. Had a good weekend. Brought in my birthday. My 36th birthday.
Shit! Happy belated, my brother.
Hey, happy belated birthday, bro.
Appreciate it.
Is that what that Maker's Mark bottle was for?
That's exactly what that Maker's Mark bottle was.
Oh man!
I find top shelf shit every weekend.
Oh man! Hey, I seen that motherfucking 50%. My eyes got wide because I knew about Maker's Mark, but I ain't know. I was like, hold on, bro. I gotta catch a wave, bro.
So, every year Makers comes out with a limited edition release. Like I had the 2019 version, and then I got this. This was the 2020 version. So they only make a little bit of those every year. So you got to jump on that iron while it's hot.
One thing, first off, what's going on, Disco? What's going on, everybody that's in the chat, that's watching live? Appreciate y'all for tuning in. But Dre, talk to me about this limited edition right quick. I mean, you ain't got to go into a whole soliloquy or anything like that, or whatever Stephen A likes to talk about, diatribe, all that shit. But I am not hip. What the fuck is? They come out with one every single year.
Yeah, so Makers comes out with a limited edition release every year, and they only make a certain amount of bottles. It could be like 500 to 1,000 or something every year. So every time one of these come out, they're expensive. They're not your normal $40, $50. These more closer to the $100 range. So it's a nice little pretty penny. That's why I say I do it for the birthday. It's not an every week thing. I wanted to taste the limited edition release this year, and it was worth it. It was well worth it.
So talk to me, man. How much of the drink you got left, bro? Did you crush it?
It's actually, this is the last of it right here. We're on the last right.
Hey, bro, it's Tuesday. It's Tuesday, Dre. Come on. Well, I don't even blame you. It's your birthday.
It was the birthday
exactly.
Weekend.
Exactly. It was a birthday weekend. All right, I'll take that back, man. Yes, sir. But oh shoot, Disco said he was attacked in your thread over that Maker's Mark bottle. I don't know what he said. You know what I'm saying? But oh, he was. What happened with you, Disco?
It's bourbon snobs out there, which is cool. I like to learn what I can from them. But Disco came in and asked an amateur question. He asked me, was I putting it on the rocks or was I drinking it neat? And then the snobs came out and said, no, you do not drink this on the rocks. That's top shelf.
Top shelf, fool.
I don't even drink anymore.
Look, hey, Disco, man, you in a safe space, bro. You know what I'm saying? If you say something wild over here, you know what I'm saying, we'll let you know. But you know what I'm saying? Nobody else gonna hear it. Safe with us, bro. Let us know something. But all right. So look, we got Julio Jones on the trade market. That was at the top of our head a couple days ago. And we all had some thoughts. And we'll to get this started, right, we'll go ahead and hit the quote of the week. The quote of the week actually comes from Ethan Cadeau of NBC Sports Washington. and it was part of an article that he wrote pertaining to Julio Jones. And he stated, while adding Jones would make all other 31 NFL clubs immediately better, doesn't make sense for Washington football team to make a run after the two-time All-Pro. For starters, Washington had already significantly upgraded its receiver room this offseason, investing in the position in both free agency and the draft. That's his thoughts. AJ, you know, I love when you start these things off, man, because you bring the fire, man. Let me hear what you have to say. First off, do you agree with him? But obviously that'll lead into the question: Are you trading for Julio Jones? Because the word is not even going for a first round pick. So
yeah, I mean, I'm definitely trading for Julio Jones. I don't know who the hell Ethan is, but he can go sit his ass somewhere else. Like, bruh, we talking about one of the greatest wide receivers of all time, who's still got plenty of game left in him. Absolute dog. As you guys know, since I've been on the show, I always talk about having dogs on your team. And I mean, those are one of those type of guys that can take over a game, provides a huge threat to the defense. You got a game plan around making sure you stop him, which opens up the rest of the the offense. Running game, Terry, Logan, your slot receiver can eat all of that. And you can line him up anywhere on the field and he's going to put in work. So it's like, especially now with us knowing the dynamics of, you know, the background of him wanting out as well and them needing to kind of get rid of him by after June 1st due to salary cap reasons, you can get an all-pro wide receiver, a number one of number ones for a second to third round pick. Hell yeah. Like, I don't know what's wrong with some of the journalists in the area, fans. Like, you gotta stop being scared of getting impact players or guys with names. Like, just because you had like a past of maybe things not working out with Albert Haysbert, who isn't even like an elite talent. We're talking about a future Hall of Famer here. Like, you know, even Dion came here, but he still played well to some degree. Maybe not what we've seen in previous years, but it's like you got to get over that fear. I mean, scared money don't make money. So at the end of the day, I feel like if you have the salary cap and you also have a need for a wide receiver, a legit number one, you should, if you're a team out there, you should definitely be interested, especially if you can get an all-pro like that at second or third round.
Trey, where you at with this?
Yeah. See, here's where I come in. Like I said on Twitter, I would love to add Julio Jones on the team, but I just want to save that ammo for a quarterback right now because, like I said, I don't want to take us out of the running before we even get started. All right, let's say, here you go, AJ. So next year, let's say Russell Wilson's still malcontent with his situation and the asking price is a first and a second rounder to start for this year. But then you don't even have that second no more because you traded for Julio the year before. So, and then look at the teams that's kind of in the market for Julio right now. The teams that's kind of being mentioned. I think I see the Patriots being named. They just drafted their quarterback. Titans, they're really content with Tannehill. He'll be there for a few years. And I think maybe the Chiefs might be even mentioning that. They got Mahomes. So they can afford to trade like a second-round pick because they already got their guys. But Washington doesn't have a long-term answer at quarterback, and we don't know what the cost will be because for the way I see it, I don't see Washington picking in the top 5 anytime soon, and I don't know how else you acquire your long-term answer without having to give up some of those assets, and that's why I would save some. If it's for a third and a fourth, cool, I'll take Julio because you can still get your quarterback. But second, I'm a little hesitant.
I mean, the second ain't really that valuable if you put it in perspective. If your thoughts are you want to pursue a quarterback, it's going to take first-round picks. A second is not going to put it over the edge. I mean, and you can also utilize the players that you have that you can move, whether it be Allen, Ioannidis, or Payne, or whoever. You could possibly move a player to make up for that second that you would lose. But, I mean, if you put it in perspective, we don't know the future. We don't know who's going to be available in the market next year as far as, like, free agent quarterbacks, we have an idea, right? But as far as like Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers probably available, and might make that move before the start of this season. We just don't know. But in order, I feel like you have to get dogs on your team. And if you are going to rock with Ryan Fitzpatrick for the year, why not go add a playmaker on the outside? I mean, yeah, you signed Curtis Samuel, but when you really break it down, Curtis Samuel contract is going to be worth much more than what Julio Jones contract is currently. I mean, he has a big contract that you got to take on, but if you really break it down the following year, Curtis Samuel is going to be making more than him, and he's never put up anywhere remotely close to the numbers Julio has, nor is he necessarily that big of a threat. I feel like this team needs a number one wide receiver since. I mean, have they really had a number one wide receiver in my lifetime? Does DJ count?
I think so. I think DJ counts.
I think he could count. He could count, but even with that, they didn't feature him like he was the number one.
Yeah.
So if you put in perspective, this team has been searching for a legit top wide receiver that's been consistent for years. Of course, you had a sprinkle of, I guess we could say, D-Jack, Santana Moss, but aside from that, you got to go back to the early 90s, late 80s to talk about Art Monk. Yeah. And like I said, this team needs more dogs. You need something else on that offense that helps Terry get to the next level as well, but also opens up your offense. And adding a Julio Jones, it's a game changer. I don't necessarily think the Patriots are interested. I think people just connecting them with any possible player movement. But guys aren't really eager to go to the Patriots right now, especially with Tom Brady not there. I mean, that's not the key to getting a ring anymore. So at the end of the day,
no, AJ, I wanted to ask you this. So what do you think the team's ceiling is right now as it stands with the roster? And what do you think the team's ceiling would be with Julio Jones this year, if him adding to this roster?
I mean, I feel like right now, the way the team is constructed, they can definitely compete for the NFC East title. Outside of that, I really don't see them doing much in the playoffs, because the playoffs is a whole different ballgame. And that's when you need those type of elite playmakers, those dogs that can go and make things happen and can also shift the focus of the game plan. That's why, to me, it's always important to add those type of top-tier pieces. Now, if you bring in Julio Jones in with a gunslinger like Fitzpatrick, oh, my God, it changes everything. He's definitely going to put the ball up there for Julio to go get. You also can run underneath plays with Samuel, Terry. It changes everything for the offense, because now you can't really sit in the box. Some people don't view Terry McLaurin as a threat. Of course, we know he's fast. We know Curtis Samuel's speed or whatever, but those aren't guys that defense is scared of. If you go ahead and add Julio on the outside, now you also have opened up the run game for Antonio Gibson, McKissick, and whoever else is going to be another back out there. You also open underneath routes for Logan Thomas. It changes everything offensively for the team.
So to add to this,
no matter who's playing.
That is true. And I was going to say, for those of you who hate Fitzpatrick, or don't trust him, one thing's for sure: if you got Julio on this team, that'll change your perspective on Fitzpatrick, because Julio will make Fitzpatrick look good. But with that being said, to add to some context from the chat, King of the North, what's going on, Romero? He said making this type of splash move. Actually, I want to save that comment for last. But he also mentioned that people need to. This is to Dre's point. People need to remember that at least Watson and Rodgers are going to be on the block next year. Maybe Wilson, save your money in picks. And he's not trading any big assets for a guy that wasn't even the best receiver on his team. Really shine brighter than Julio. He said that about, I guess he's presuming the 2020.
Hold on.
I gotta finish. He had one more. And then he was like,
man,
he said making this. He said making this type of splash move will contradict everything Ron has done In my opinion, it makes no sense. So, fellas, with that being said, I wanted to save that last comment. The comment that he made, it was actually his first one, but I wanted to save that for last because it's interesting that people and Romero, this is. Yeah, exactly. Say what you say, bro. I respect it. He said I said what I said, and I respect that. Like one of the things that people say, exactly.
Don't mean it makes sense.
So one of the things when people talk about Ron and making moves, right? I understand that quarterback position is obviously the most important position. So like this is going to be an outlier, and I'm acknowledging that before I even state this, right? He did go hard for Matt Stafford. Like he went out there for one of the people that he thought that can compete. You have Ryan Fitzpatrick now, and obviously for whatever it's worth, like you signed him, you didn't have to give up anything in terms of picks, assets and stuff like that. You just signed him in free agency. But when you look at wide receiver and you look at one of the top 5, arguably top 5, definitely top 10 receivers in the NFL, like when you look at this guy who is still capable of producing and having 100 averaging nearly 100 yards a game a season, like he's still capable of doing that. When you do things like that, giving up a second or giving up a third, I don't think that's a significant issue. And the reason why I would consider it, I would lean towards, and I personally would actually pull the trigger, is because, Dre, to your point about the quarterback, we have people that we can give up to compensate for a second round pick. If we had to give up a second round pick, you're looking at, we have a very crowded defensive line. We have people in other places, not saying it's heavy. The heaviest spot is the defensive line, but you have people in other places that you can leverage if this season takes off for Washington. So you have Matt Ioannidis, you have Duron. I'm not saying trade them. I'm not saying these are guys that you give up like for that quarterback. I mean, if we're talking about Russell and Aaron Rodgers, we can revisit this. But you have these type of players on the defensive line where it's like that second round pick means nothing if you get Julio. And Fitzpatrick, compared to for Romero's examples, you're talking about Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers. I would do that shit in a heartbeat. Like, I'm not losing anything by giving up a defensive lineman if we're talking about a stud franchise quarterback. But at the same time, I'm just saying trading Julio for a second or third, for me, it kind of goes deeper than worrying about a second or a third round pick. Whereas I can get my top guy and get like 2 or 3 years from Julio and then worry about the rest later. Now, the question for you all, would it be worth it in the sense of him being available? Like, would it be valuable if you get 10 games out of Julio versus 16? Like, is that worth it?
I personally think it's worth it. I mean, Julio's the type of guy, he's probably not going to practice every week. Ain't no problem with that because I know he's going to come prepared the ball. I just think, with everyone thinking for the future with quarterbacks that might be available, what's going to be the more attractive place for a quarterback to force their hand where they want to go? It's going to be where there's weapons. If you add Julio to the mix of what you already have going on offensively, it becomes a more attractive place for Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson. Right now, you got some cool little toys to play with, but you ain't got no damn dog like on the outside. If you get a Julio Jones, now you can actually pursue a team, and that player also has to be on board. We're talking about quarterbacks here, so it's not like it's some random player that doesn't get to pick where they necessarily want to go. We're talking about quarterbacks that are going to control their destination, as you've seen with Matthew Stafford. He pushed that he wanted to go to LA, and what happened? They made the option available, and he went there. You just look at the impact of Josh Allen in Buffalo. They traded for a dog in Stephon Diggs, and it changed the trajectory of the whole team. They were competing to go to a Super Bowl just a couple months ago because they added a dog at receiver, which opened up the game for everybody. Cole Beasley had his best season. He's a third wide receiver on most teams. He had a good season. John Brown. It opened up a lot for that offense because they had a dog. And that's where, I'm with it with when it comes to Julio Jones. I feel like if you add talent like that, it also becomes a more attractive place for these quarterbacks that you're supposedly thinking that you're going to be able to pursue. First round picks are what's going to do it for a quarterback next year. This Washington football team is not going to have a top 10 pick in the draft. So at the end of the day, they have to give up like multiple ones in order to make a move for a quarterback. But it also helps when that quarterback knows that, hey, I can force my hand even more. I know that Julio Jones, Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Antonio Gibson are there, and they got a young offensive line. I have a better chance of being around like great weapons. And if I'm not mistaken, let me see if I can pull up the quote. But I think even Ron Rivera said today, like, we don't have to rely on the quarterback because the weapons around the he said we don't have to rely on the quarterback because of the weapons around the quarterback position. So he made you be content with the fact that, hey, we can go into the season with Ryan Fitzpatrick and they think that their weapons are suitable enough to make it work. But if you can go and add a Julio Jones into the mix for a second and third round pick, why not? I mean, just look at Washington's draft status over the last several years, second and third round picks. What have they really amounted up to?
Nothing, especially the second rounders.
For me, like I said, for me, it comes down to what's your confidence level in Fitzpatrick, regardless of everything else. Because if you listen to a lot of people when they talk Washington football, they always say, oh, well, that team doesn't have a quarterback. They'll just still blatantly disrespect the Ryan Fitzpatrick or whoever else we have in the roster. That team doesn't have a quarterback, so they limit our ceiling. But like I said, the reason why I asked AJ about what would he think our ceiling would be with Julio Jones. Now, if you think Julio Jones takes you to the next level this year with Ryan Fitzpatrick, I'm all for it. Like, I mean, you think there's no ceiling for if you acquire Julio Jones with the current roster, then I'm all cool for it. And plus, like I said, AJ's right about Julio Jones. I mean, he's a great player. He's what we don't have. He's that outside wide receiver that we've been needing for years. But as I say, how much does he raise your ceiling as it stands right now? That's where I look at it. And then to Jamal's point about, the leveraging of the defensive linemen, I'm not sure if we're kind of overrating our talent on the line. Now, don't get me wrong, we have talent on the line, especially just the whole group in whole. But how do other teams view an interior defensive lineman, like especially like a Matt Ioannidis? What's the value for Matt Ioannidis, or even if you want to say Deron Payne, maybe second? Well, I don't know.
Let's talk about it. How many are going to start? Like you got the floor, Dre, but how many on the defensive line can start on other teams? You got the floor with that one.
I think all of them can start on other teams, but how many other teams are coveting like interior DL? Now, I think if you're starting to talk about trading some of those DL guys to another team, the first question is they're going to ask is Montez Sweat probably, and they're probably going to know Chase Young's untouchable, but they're going to say, what about Montez Sweat? He's an attractive edge piece. Like, I think edge pieces are more attractive than interior pieces on defensive line. So that's probably where you're starting at when you get to the high-end quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, it's a guy like Seattle. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's changed over the years. More teams want interior defensive linemen because of the quarterback getting the ball out so quick. You want the Aaron Rodgers. I mean, not the Aaron Rodgers. You want the Aaron Donalds. You want the Chris Jones. You want the Deron Payne, Matthew Ioannidis, because they're literally pushing those guards and centers right back into the quarterback. So it's kind of changed as far as the importance of the defensive end in comparison to a pass rushing D tackle.
And I was going to mention, you got to think about, now again, I'm only staying within the context of Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, and Russell Wilson, right? I'm not going to stretch any further than that because this is all hypothetical anyway. But at the same time, when you look at certain teams, Seattle needs all types of defensive line. Like, we have the talent, and Seattle can take an interior defensive line and be okay. That'll substitute for a second rounder. That'll substitute for a third rounder. Packers, I don't like Mike Daniels. I fuck with him. He cool. And then I don't know what the situation is in Houston in terms of like their philosophy or their scheme this year. We kind of fit better in the 4-3, so I don't know what their situation is, but it all depends, and it's situational based on the team that you're choosing, or the team that you're seeking out that can use these type of players. Obviously, draft picks help, but when you're talking about a 24, 25-year-old defensive lineman in their prime that's playing really good, look, hey, that's where I'm at with it, fellas. It can work. It can work. But switching, we're still on Julio here, but switching to a different angle. I'm going to list off the 10 highest paid receivers in the NFL, right? And after I list these 10, I want to tell you, I mean, there is one on here who's won a Super Bowl. But I want to see like where those teams were in terms of their success. And we go from there, right? So number 10. And this is as of March 20th of this year. So number 10, you got Mike Evans, right? Obviously Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl. Allen Robinson, Chicago Bears. Bro, they didn't make they did. They lost against the Saints. So they lost in against the Saints. Kenny Galladay just got signed to the Giants. But he was with Detroit last year. Detroit, terrible. Kansas City, Tyreek Hill. I mean, Pat Mahomes, like self-explanatory. Odell Beckham, Cleveland Browns. That's number 6. He's tied with 6 with Tyreek Hill. Number 5, Mike Thomas. He's with New Orleans Saints. We already know how that happened with him and Drew Brees. Number 4, Amari Cooper, Dallas Cowboys. Not even making the playoffs. Number 3, Keenan Allen, Los Angeles Chargers. Didn't make the playoffs. Number 2, Julio Jones. $22 million AAV. And then number 1, DeAndre Hopkins, 27 AAV, 27.25 AAV, Arizona Cardinals. And we know how they turned out. And I can't stand their coach. So personally, I'm biased anyway, but he shouldn't even be in the NFL. But fellas, those are the top 10 guys, right? And I guess my question to you all is we already know where we stand with Julio, all 3 of us. But is that top receiver even necessary? Because you're going to be paying this much. Like, even if you trade for Julio, he's already still going to be in the top 5 in terms of AAV. Like, is this the guy? Do you need this person, especially who's going to be taking that much money up for your team?
I believe you do, and I believe that Ron Rivera also knows that. If you guys don't remember, they tried to sign Amari Cooper for $22 million a year last year. The only reason they didn't get Amari Cooper is because Dallas sold him on marketing and branding opportunities, and also the fact that there's no state income tax. But Amari Cooper was probably going to be a Washington Redskins last year. They know the importance of a wide receiver, one that can be an elite number 1. And some people don't even think Amari's a number 1. You know, a lot of people think that he disappears in games. So imagine that. They were willing to offer a guy $22 million a year that disappeared in games. Julio don't disappear in no games. You feel me? So they obviously know that they need a wide receiver and they need someone of elite caliber. But I feel like it just really depends on the philosophy of your team. I mean, with the guys that you name off, you know, if you take Michael Thomas away from that New Orleans Saints offense, it looks completely different. You take Kenny Galladay from the Lions offense, and it really doesn't result in any difference in their wins or losses, you know. You take DeAndre Hopkins, he definitely has an impact on the game. So it really just all depends on the overall structure of the team. And in this situation, Washington has the perfect infrastructure for an elite talent at wide receiver that will cost a premium cost to come in and definitely provide an impact, not only on their individual stats, but to everybody else around them as a collective.
Where you at with it, Dre?
Okay. For me, so I had to, while, we were talking, I had to go look this up. Now, I'm not doing it now, definitely no, because I'm looking at the free agent class for next year. And I'm looking at Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, and Devontae Adams. And I don't think there's a chance in hell Devontae Adams goes back to Green Bay if Aaron Rodgers isn't there. So, I mean, you got 3 guys you could potentially go after that you don't have to give any assets up for. You could just go sign them with the money you were going to give Amari Cooper a couple years ago or something. So, yeah, I'll take my chances more so on free agency with the wide receiver stuff, especially if you want that high-end guy and wide receiver, because you don't have to trade for him and you can go out and give him his deal, whatever. And plus, I don't think Julio is the difference between us, having a Super Bowl this year. I don't think he comes in and makes us a Super Bowl contender right away. So I would take my chances with the free agent class next year.
Hey, that offense was bottom seven last year, man.
Yeah.
I'm just
we also
saying,
had bottom 32 quarterbacks. We did have bottom 32 quarterbacks.
I mean, I think, yeah, a lot of that is overlooked. Like, a lot of people, Washington made the playoffs, but they also weren't a great team, you know? So a lot of people overlook the fact that the offense really wasn't doing shit. People were screaming, damn, who's playing wide receiver? Yeah, you had a whole bunch of niggas off the street playing wide receiver pretty much. Like, I mean, even if you look at the roster, they really don't have a veteran presence at wide receiver. I'm not gonna say that people is out here looking up to Adam Humphries, you know?
Hey, who you want to be like when you grow up, son? Adam Humphries.
Adam Humphries.
Oh my goodness.
All right. All those names you got, all those names that you mentioned can all be franchise tagged, and they probably will never be available. The only one that probably will is Allen Robinson, and he couldn't clean Julio Jones' shoes, in my opinion.
But he's a dog, don't you think? Don't you think Allen Robinson's a dog?
I will go. Yes.
I don't believe.
Come on, AJ.
Hey, I'm about to say, AJ.
He may not be Julio,
AJ.
But he's a number one receiver.
Nah, he's not number one in mine. I don't know. That's my opinion.
Oh, man.
Even this offseason, guys like, yeah, I hope they pursue Kenny Galladay, Allen Robinson, or whatever. I'm like, y'all overlooking Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin, nice as shit. Like,
yeah, I fuck with him.
But I'm not about to sit here and call any of those guys dogs. Devontae nice as hell, but he's definitely gonna get tagged if anything. They're not about to just let him go for free.
Yeah, that shit ain't sweet. Not for Devontae, especially in a situation where Green Bay is possibly losing their quarterback. So they ain't about to let him go. All right, so to the chat, Zacy. What's going on, Zacy? If you're still in here, he said obviously Terry is not as good as Julio, but he's been a legit one with mid at receivers around him. And then Disco mentioned, obviously, this is a turn talking about the discussion when we talked about the top 10 guys. He was mentioning that you still got to pay Terry, and obviously, Washington would be fools to not even entertain it after year 3. So yes, I agree. You still got to pay Terry, but I don't think paying Terry is going to hinder them from getting any top tier receivers if they wanted to. They can still get that and still be okay at the receiver position. Any last thoughts or comments on this Julio Jones thing? So obviously AJ, I say trade. AJ and I say trade. Dre say do not trade. Is there anything else we want to mention?
For me, I think it would be very telling if Washington doesn't go after Julio, like, because I just feel like you need dogs, like. You gotta get dogs on the team, especially if you're gonna rock with a gunslinger and Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback. The more guys out there that you have that can go get the ball and make plays, the more opportunities this offense has to be better than the bottom half of the league. But right now, you kind of got the same guys. Curtis Samuel, he's cool, but he's more so a gadget guy. You really don't have anybody outside of Terry at the moment. It's kind of like the same guys are right back again from last year.
But outside of the wide receivers, I think a lot of people are forgetting that Antonio Gibson came on kind of strong later on in the season before he got hurt. And he was just learning the position at running back last year. And I don't even think he scratched the surface of what you can see as a receiving target, because they used J.D. McKissick a lot when it was time for receiving. And he was incredible. Like, J.D. McKissick was that dude when he would come in and receive. He was so reliable. But I don't think you saw a lot of the offense's potential being tapped in until you started to see what a healthy, competent QB can do. And when Alex Smith was halfway healthy before his leg gave out, the offense moved the ball. They did a lot better than they did before. And even Heineke, when he finally played, the game and a half he played, you saw the potential of what this offense could be when it's running kind of competently. And even then, you still didn't have a healthy Antonio Gibson, who I'm really high on.
Hey, but Dre, just like Barney used to say back in the day, just imagine. Imagine Julio Jones with everything you just said. It opens up the passing game for the running backs even more.
It will. But we gotta rob Peter. What's the saying? We gotta rob Peter to pay Paul.
Just imagine.
I don't want to do that.
Hey Dre, I don't know. I was holding in my laugh because I don't know what it is. And I sorry Alex if you're listening, but I doubt you are. Anytime somebody mentions the Alex Smith and just casually mentions how he couldn't hang is just hilarious to me. I don't know why, but I just had to get that off my chest. Okay. Number 2, the shit you see on social media, right? We're gonna go ahead and transition and talk about the football team as a whole. Football team and the New York Giants. Dan Orlovsky stated maybe a day or so ago, his quote was on Twitter, if Daniel Jones and or Ryan Fitzpatrick play really good football, their teams run away with the division. If Dak plays really good, still won't be enough for Dallas. This is a follow-up to a comment that he made on ESPN saying that the Cowboys are the 3rd best team in this division. He believes that Washington football team and the Giants are both better. So is Dan on to something here? I mean, for those who listen to me, I can't get with Dan. Like, I think he's good at analysis in terms of the actual X's and O's, but his sports takes are beyond ridiculous. And I hate that I have to give him credit in terms of my opinion and how I feel about this division. But Jesus Christ, I'm giving him credit for a statement. I don't know if he was just fucking pandering, but this was something where it's like, God damn, bro. Like I didn't think you had this in you, fellas. Is Dan on to something here?
I mean, I think. Go ahead, Dre.
Yeah. Go ahead. Oh no, yeah. I was gonna say no. Dan. I get where he's coming from. I mean, the NFL is a year-to-year league, and anything can happen. But I mean, I agree that you don't just automatically crown the Cowboys just because Dak Prescott's going to be healthy. Dak Prescott was healthy last year, and they started off 2-3, and they should have been 0-5. They should have lost that Falcons game early in the season, and they should have lost that Giants game that he played when he got hurt. But he was playing. Dak was throwing for over 450 yards in 3 of those games that he played, and Dallas was still giving up over 38 damn points a game. So unless they got much better on the defensive side of the ball, I agree. You just can't automatically place Dallas above Washington and New York right now, because I think Washington and New York both got better this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can see where he's coming from, but the hope or the optimism that Daniel Jones is going to be better is just fucking ridiculous. Like, I don't think it had anything to do. I don't think it had anything to do with weapons. It's just more so he just ain't that guy. But I could see it from both sides. You got 2 teams that got solid defense, good coaching, a roster that that you could definitely be productive with. When it comes to Dallas, I mean, yeah, Dak was playing good and they still were stinking up the joint. But I mean, even with Dallas, we got to see how that defense is going to work out. I mean, they definitely added Michael Parsons, who I think is going to be an impact guy for them. Secondary should be a little bit better, but they didn't really make any changes to their D line. I don't think they got better there. Still kind of like the same guys, but I mean, they got a shit ton of offense, so I don't know. I don't like the Packers coaching situation. I mean, not Packers, but Cowboys coaching staff, none of that. But overall, I mean, I can see where he's coming from with that. I just think, I'm going to say it once again, you go ahead and get that dog and Julio, and you definitely going to be the favorites in the NFC
East. Man. So, like, I get and 100%, like 1,000%, everything that people say about Daniel Jones at this point is warranted. But I think one of the things that kind of caught my eye, and it wasn't just because he played us, right? Prior to the Giants, I think it was the first game. I can't remember, but they went on like a 2 or 3 game win streak. But prior to playing us amidst that winning streak that they had, they were playing good ball. That included Daniel Jones. I can't tell you the stats. I just don't remember off the top of my head. Even though I got the computer right here, I can look it up. I'm not going to do it. It was something there while I was watching them because I was losing money as well in the process, gambling. I liked what I saw in terms of like how they were playing in terms of team football. The defense, as you all said, was pretty good. It's something that Dallas didn't have. Washington was better, but it's something that Dallas didn't have. It's something that Philly was struggling with this year. And they were just sneaky good throughout the season. But then you look at the offensive side of the ball, they were missing pieces this year, mainly Saquon. Saquon is that ultimate playmaker. Like, he was the one who made plays for that offense. And you get him some help this year, right? Kenny Golladay being the biggest guy. And then you draft I think it was Tony. They got Kadarius Toney.
Yeah.
So like you're getting these guys some help, and I guess it's the same sense that Ron mentioned in minicamp or OTAs a couple hours ago, is that you are looking to help the quarterback out. You're not asking the quarterback to do too much, and you're getting this guy some help. And with that being said, this is one of the reasons why I feel like New York is capable of doing much better, or at least being consistent. Like, I'm not saying they're going to be a 10-win team. I'm not saying they're going to be an 11-win team. But they can possibly still stay within that 7 to 8 win range, peaking a potential of like 9 or 10. But they're around that 7 or 8. Like, that's where they're at. Dallas is in that same boat, and so is Washington. We're all within that 7 to 9 range, peaking at 10 or 11. And I think that the reason why New York and Washington stands on top of Dallas is for that defensive side of the ball, but also we all made improvements in a lot of aspects of our teams. Dallas's biggest flaws for years have been that defensive line, and AJ just pointed to it. Been the defensive line, and they haven't done much in terms of significant upgrades in one offseason. It's still there. Switching to the 4-3 can help them, but it doesn't mean that they're going to get drastically better. And that's kind of where they're stuck at. When you're asking for the defense to step up, you don't know just yet. They did improve in terms of potential-wise on paper. They got some talent, but it don't mean nothing right now. And I can't say that they've gotten drastically better, even with that coming back, because it's been like a flat hill in terms of progress. It hasn't been no ups. They haven't really went down either, but there hasn't been much that changed with them. So we already know where we're at with Washington. We talk about them all the time. They've improved in a lot of aspects. But I think Giants, for that reason, is better than Dallas. I think that we got the upper hand on Dallas, too. I actually don't even see us losing to Dallas this year, to be honest with you.
But I think we as a fan base too shouldn't sleep on the Giants. And I know we like to, have that, thing with them, but I'm not gonna lie. Daniel Jones, I mean, he's an enigma to me. Like, I don't know what he is. Like, he could be
very
Cousins,
valid, yeah.
Or he could take a Josh Allen type of leap. Like, I mean, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he took a year 3 Josh Allen type of leap, the same leap that Josh Allen just took this year. I mean, before this year, who was talking about Josh Allen like that? A lot of people thought he was a bust. People say, oh, he's not that good. He's, look at his completion percentage the last 2 years. Then this last year, he turns into a franchise quarterback. And I thought Daniel Jones, as much as I hate to say it, he showed a lot of those flashes at some points in last year, especially that stretch where they were playing well. Like, I remember the Monday night game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think he had started out pretty bad, but then he ended up leading them back, and he showed some flashes. And that's one of those things that, you start putting a key Golladay around them, and then he gets Kadarius Toney. Now, you wonder if that makes him take that Josh Allen type of leap. I hope it doesn't. I mean, obviously, right, because I'm watching a football family, but that's something that we have to kind of watch out for. I mean, I would not be shocked if he does. And, the Giants are known to not be, they don't stay in the cellar for long. They never have. I mean, the 80s, 90s, 2000s, whatever.
It's the longest period.
The Giants don't stay in the cellar. Yeah, they don't, So at some point, they kind of just wake up and do something. So hopefully that's not this year, but I just wouldn't be shocked if that's who you have to really watch out for in this division.
All right, those in the chat, man. If y'all If y'all had to choose, man, y'all had to bet the house. And I'm gonna ask this question to y'all too, but before we move on to the next segment, right? If y'all had to bet the house on the team, New York, and this is no disrespect for Philly, this is just the topic of the conversation. New York, Dallas, or Washington. Be honest with yourselves. You can choose Washington. Just be honest with yourself. Who's winning that division? So you guys let us know, fellas. You again, Washington, New York, or Dallas? Who's winning the division? Who comes out on top?
I think it's Washington. I mean, their schedule is insane. I mean, they're playing like elite quarterbacks week after week after week after week. So you're really not getting no breaks. But I think Washington has the better football team, a defense that not only can stop people but also create turnovers. That's the key. When you get the turnovers, you're gonna pretty much put your offense in a good position to win. I think even though I'm not a big Fitzpatrick guy, but like I said, he has a gunslinger mentality, so he's definitely gonna give your guys an opportunity to go get the ball and put up points. Versus what we experienced last year with Haskins, Kyle Allen, and even Taylor Heineke for a little bit. You definitely have a gunslinger out there, so I feel like Washington has the best team. We'll see what happens. I really think it probably could even be considered a toss-up between New York and Washington. But it really just boils down to whose defense is going to make more plays and whose offense is going to, at least be average somewhat. Not be bottom tier, but at least be average. You have an average offense going into this and an elite defense, yeah, you're definitely going to win the NFC East.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to sound biased, but yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with AJ. And main reason is because if you look down the stretch, we got 5 straight division games to end the season. We have the tough schedule, but I think you can grab a couple of those games you may not think you're gonna win. You probably lose a game here or two that you don't think you're gonna, lose. But the end of the season is where it comes down to. You have 5 divisional games, and this is gonna be tough. You're not gonna go 5-0 down that stretch, but I think we have the best defense in the division, which is going to be needed, to go up against these guys. And like I said, I think the offense is going to be adequate. I really think the offense is going to be adequate. I don't think it's going to be bottom 7 or whatever it was last year. I think you're going to have maybe a top 17 offense this year, and that's all you're going to probably need with this defense. I mean, because Ryan Fitzpatrick, he can get the job done. I mean, he can play. He'll throw some interceptions, some what the fuck type of passes here and there, but he's also going to give his guys a chance, and you hope that helps some of these young guys elevate their game. But again, with a good defense, and some people think we have a top 5 defense. Some people even we were rated number 1 defense yesterday by someone. So you got to, if that defense lives up to what you think it is, all you really need is an average offense to win, I think, the NFC East. I'm not saying we're Super Bowl contenders, but I think you can win the NFC East with that defense and an average offense.
Yeah, I agree with both of y'all. And Zay mentioned us as well, so he said he leaned us over New York. It'll come down to the wire, but it was kind of funny. I thought he was talking about Cowboys as well, but he was just saying they'll be tough in Madden, which what I'm saying, it happens yearly. But I think Washington
be tough in Madden.
Yeah, they'll be tough in Madden, but that's about it. But I agree. I don't need to rehash it, but I do think the biggest question mark, but also the boom or bust comes with the offense with Washington. I don't think, believe it or not, as good as our defense is, I don't think it'll statistically look as good as it did last year. Because of the type of people the type of quarterbacks they'll be facing this year. It's just impossible. We're facing too many good quarterbacks. Their offenses are going to be good. I'm not giving our defense no shot. Like they'll have a shot to make plays against these teams, but in actuality, like when a good offense comes against a good defense, you'll have those back and forth battles. And it's not going to look good every single week. With that being said, I do think I like our chances because I think we're more consistent. We're better coached, and we have the pieces on all levels of the defense to be considered a top tier defense. It'll just come down to the offense to keep us in the games in which the defense is struggling against the better offenses with the top tier quarterbacks. But yeah, I lean us over New York as well. And so the last thing before we get out of here, fellas, and to be honest with you, I don't even know if it's like where it'll lead, but Pro Football Focus named Washington Football Talk. Oh Jesus Christ! Named Washington Football Team. I don't know why this initial is even like that. Washington Football Team, one of the 5 most improved teams in 2021, with 5 being the Jags, 3 being the Jets, 2 being the Patriots, and 1 being the Browns. Washington Football Team is at number 4. So I don't, considering all the teams and how everything came into place this offseason, I don't know if they're like out of position. Like, I think that's, how about this? I'll just ask this question, right? Because they were named one of the top 5 most improved teams in 2021. Is that fair to say, given the other teams that I mentioned, that they're in that same boat? Because looking at them, New England, I don't even know how Cleveland just keeps coming number 1. If you ask them every single year, like, Cleveland is the number 1 improved team every single year. I don't, like, they're always going to be in the top 5 for whatever reason, like the past few years. But is Washington considered? Should they be considered among those groups of teams that have improved?
I mean, how can we really say these teams improved? I mean, I
like that.
really
I like
know.
that response. I like it.
I think we're focusing on free agent acquisitions too much. I feel like none of these teams acquired elite talent in free agency. I feel like, yeah, if it was like they got a Julio Jones, for example. Then
that'll change AJ's opinion on everything.
Right, Julio.
Any of these teams grab like a Julio Jones or like even I guess you could probably say a JJ Watt or some big time talent. You could say they really improved, but I mean, am I about to say that New England really improved because they got some like lower tier guys that we expect so highly of? Like, New England got Nelson Aguilar, John Smith, or however you say his name. You got Hunter Henry. You got
they got another receiver too.
These aren't big time guys. You know, like, those are guys that pretty much did well in the system. You know, Hunter Henry is legit, but he also is injured often. So can I sit here and say New England really improved that much? Like, they got a bunch of guys, but not really like elite talent. Kendrick Bourne, things of that nature. Jags, I mean, who did they get? They got Trevor Lawrence and Marvin Jones. I know they got Shaquille Griffin, the corner from Seattle. But that isn't someone that's going to put your team on the next level. The Jets, they got Zach Wilson. I mean, Cleveland, who did Cleveland get? Am I missing something?
Yeah, that's why I was like, every year they just kind of get like the default most improved team, and this off season.
I was about to say, what did they start? For them to keep getting it every year, they must have been at the bottom.
And how can you be most improved if you made it to like what? They made it to the second round of the playoffs, right?
Second round.
To the playoffs.
So if you put them number 1 most improved, that means you're saying they're going to the Super Bowl.
Right.
Essentially.
Yeah, they got to be conference championship or Super Bowl. Pretty much.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. I mean, the names that stick out is Anthony Walker, Malik Jackson, Morgan Burnett. Oh, he retired. That's a transaction. Okay, Jadeveon Clowney, which is recent. Sheldon Richardson. I think he re-signed, I believe. Oh no, he was released. What else? Then you talk about it was mainly draft picks.
But you know what's funny? A lot of these analysts shit on Clowney, and then as soon as he signs with a team, then they're like most improved or expected to have a greater impact. It's so weird to me. Like, it's so weird to me. They shit on Clowney when he's a free agent, but then as soon as he signed with a team, it's like, oh, watch how he makes an impact with the Browns, the Seahawks, the Titans. Like, come on, man.
Stay consistent. Stay consistent. I honestly think, looking at this though, I think it was the Patriots who was the most improved team, to be honest with you. And what was this? Alex Redmond. Okay. Yeah, and honestly, like, I don't care. Like, even if it is just preseason or off season, this is a guy where a team, excuse me, I'm thinking of Cam Newton, but this is a team where you're really looking at Cam Newton and in terms of just like, this is what it hinges on. They did sign Mac Jones, right? Or draft Mac Jones, but I'm not considering him for anything, but they made some plays in terms of trying to replace Julian Edelman, trying to bolster up the receiving core around Cam Newton. I don't like that anomaly or phenomenon that Cam went through, where he was looking good before COVID and all of a sudden COVID struck and he became a fucking shell of himself. I don't know what that is, and I got to give him a benefit of doubt in this regard, right? I just don't know that what we saw in the tail end of the season, or that post-COVID Cam, is who he really is. So I think, with that being said, I think they are the most improved. In terms of Washington, though, just circling back to them, I think they do belong in the top 5. And I think they belong in the group in which they mentioned them. I just don't know. Cleveland belongs up there. I don't know who you'll replace Cleveland with, but at the same time, Washington has made major moves in a lot of places. I think the biggest thing is looking at where they filled their holes at, right? You're talking about William Jackson at cornerback, one piece. You're talking about the safety from Miami. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on his name, but the safety from Miami.
Bobby McCain.
Yeah, Bobby McCain.
Bobby McCain.
Yep, you're talking about Bobby McCain at the secondary. 2 DBs that you know you needed. Safety, cornerback. And then you get your rookie linebacker, Jamin Davis, who's an elite athlete. And then you're going to the offensive side of the ball, where you work some pieces to get some depth to offensive line. And you kind of work that receiving core to get Curtis and Adam, 2 guys who can work, do really good against man coverage and beat these one-on-ones and make some plays for your quarterback. And then today they signed Ricky Seals-Jones. I don't think that's a significant move, but I think it helps in the sense that they kind of knew it would be foolish to go into the year with just Logan Thomas and 2 inexperienced guys in the pros at tight end behind him. So you did a lot to get better. Fitzpatrick, he's a top 20. I'm not going to go higher than top 15, but he's a top 20 quarterback in the NFL. But he's also consistently top 20. Like, he'll have some random games, again, that Drake spoke of earlier. It's like, what the fuck? But most importantly is, like, out of those 17 games, you'll get 12 consistent games where he's above average. I think I think they're top 5. I don't know where it takes them, but I think they're top 5.
Yeah, no, I mean, Jamal, you pretty much took a lot of the points I was going to say. I agree. In that, if you're going to talk about most improved for the Washington football team, you put them in that group. I mean, I haven't honestly studied the rest of the group that they put in there to say, whether they should be above or below someone. But from their perspective, I can see why they would be attracted to what we have done. Like I said, because obviously improved is going to be determined on the field. But if you look at the paper moves they've made, you say, okay, you had Ronald Darby at cornerback last year. You replaced him with William Jackson, who, in my opinion, he's better than Ronald Darby. And Ronald Darby had a really good season, but I think William Jackson's a better cornerback. Last season at safety, you had Troy Apke. It was a committee thing. Troy Apke, Jeremy Reeves, and DeShazer Everett playing free safety. I mean, Troy Apke was a dumpster fire. Reeves was okay for what you needed him for.
Did y'all see that they had Troy Apke at cornerback in OTA today?
Yeah,
they trying to find a role for that dude, man, because he can't do anything. Well, he can do special teams. He can play special teams, and that's why they're keeping him around, in my opinion, because they're like, all right, man, you can actually play special teams, but what else can you do? You can't play safety. Maybe you got speed to play cornerback, and they just set that boy up with Diami Brown today. Like they set that boy up.
I heard.
But yeah,
it didn't
that's
look good.
you get. Yeah, but you got better there. And you got Bobby McCain, who got released by the Dolphins. And I talked to a couple of Dolphins fans about Bobby McCain and people who know them, and none of them had a bad thing to say about Bobby McCain. They had a different need for that defense, whereas Bobby McCain, they needed more of some help in run, and I guess they probably going to start playing more two deep safety, whereas Bobby McCain played a lot of single high free safety, which is what this defense wants to do. You could tell Jack Del Rio wants to play a lot of single high free safety because that's what they tried to have Troy Apke do, but he couldn't take the correct fucking angle for his life last year. So, but that changed the whole landscape of the defense because now you got to bring that's what I'm saying. Yeah, now you got to bring your safeties up a little closer. But you can tell they want the one single high free safety back there because that allows them to do more up front. So that's where you got better at free safety. Linebackers, that was the weakest hole in the defense. Jamin Davis is your hope that he's going to transition. And I saw him playing a lot of middle linebacker today from what I heard in OTAs, which is a much needed thing here. And then, of course, you didn't need to do much with the defensive line, but you got edge depth, I think, with Shaka Toney and William Bradley King, possibly. I mean, these are rookies, so we don't want to put too much on them. But I think you can probably – I think by default there'll be an upgrade over what Ryan Anderson and Ryan Kerrigan gave you last year because they just disappeared too much in games. Offensively, like you said, offensive line. You had a couple of holes there. They played above their heads last year, but I think Lucas is pretty good. They got rid of Moses, but I mean Moses was decent, but I don't think Moses wasn't Trent Williams or nothing. I mean he wasn't Trent.
Yeah.
So it's not that big of a loss. I think you got capable players like a Lucas and hopefully Cosme because you drafted him in the second round. Hopefully that's something. And I think you got better depth-wise on the interior with Eric Flowers. He did good here a couple years ago, and he'll compete for interior. Running backs, you didn't need to do much with, but tight ends. We signed Seals Jones today, who I think is an immediate upgrade over Jeremy Sprinkle. I mean, that's one.
Come on now. Here we go. Oh man, nah, it really is. But listen, cause the chat, y'all chat can't hear us. The chat can't hear y'all. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna back out. I'm gonna back out for a quick second. Join back in. We finished the conversation, all that good stuff. But it's crazy though, cause for those who are listening live, right, you don't got none of these problems when you listen to the podcast. You know what I'm saying? So. These things happen when you do things live. You get technical issues and stuff like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and join back in, and we're gonna get started or restart it.
Yeah,
here we go.
We need those dogs. Okay, with Jamal. Here we go.
Yeah, so you know what I'm saying? Like
I know he was wrapping up.
I heard y'all talking about my little issues over here, but I couldn't say nothing back because y'all couldn't hear me. But yeah, but I definitely heard what you were saying, and for those in the chat who couldn't hear live, Dre was basically reiterating what I was saying, but also mentioning, I think it stopped at the Troy Apke part. You was closing in on the Troy Apke part, but you were just mentioning the fact that the offensive line, just the fact that we had those pieces, and you forgot to mention Leno, the new guy, but you were mentioning what's his name, Lucas and Cosme, and obviously how the offensive line stayed afloat and things like that. But obviously, with these pieces and reshuffle guys and Morgan Moses being gone, it creates competition, but it also creates depth in a sense that you're not necessarily losing anything major with Morgan Moses. You hope you're not losing anything major with Morgan Moses, and that's what Ron Rivera believes too when he made that decision to cut him. So we'll go.
Hey Dre, also I think you also might be getting your wish. I think Fuller might be moving their side.
Well, what happened?
I think you might be getting your wish. I think the plan. This is my prediction. Of course, I got a little bit of insight. But
okay.
I think that Ben St. Juste and William Jackson are going to be your starting corners, and Kendall Fuller is going to be the swap.
Wow.
The nickel corner. He's going to be the nickel corner.
So you must be hearing something that St. Juste actually might be that dude. Is he looking like something?
Man, I'm hearing that they trying to play a lot of press man. So with St. Juste, he about 6'3", 6'4". It works perfectly.
Right.
William Jackson's not no small corner. It allows them to really like jam up those wide receivers at the line of scrimmage and let their pass rushers get after it. Just watch out for it. I definitely think we're going to see him starting on the outside to open up the season.
All right. Hey, look, I'm all ears. I'm paying attention too. All right, y'all. So look, that's it for the football, man. For those who listened and watched live, appreciate y'all for tuning in. I'm back tomorrow with the All 32 side of Trapper Dive. The fellas are back next week. There may be, I say this every week, but it's because it's true. There may be somebody next week. When we get things final, I'll let you know. And we'll go from there. Fellas, I'm geeking to see this Lakers and Suns game at 10 o'clock. I don't know about y'all, but that's going to be my go-to series. And then we got the Wizards game tomorrow. Quick prediction, man. Wizards.
Hopefully it's better than this damn Celtics game.
Hey, look, I haven't even looked at the score yet, but I can imagine it's bad. Quick answer. Does Wizards win? Does Wizards win 2 games against the Sixers?
I'm gonna make a prediction now and say they win tomorrow night. They'll win tomorrow night.
So you just gonna move? You just gonna move the goalpost, huh?
I'm gonna rock with you.
I think
he could compete in that series as long as they stop Tobias Harris. God damn,
that shit was crazy.
Was looking like
was
looking like Kevin Durant out there.
Yes, sir. All right, it was crazy. All right, yeah, we'll figure that out. And Tom, you know what time it is, man. All 32 tomorrow. Let's get it. But we gotta be quick because the Wizards game on. So yeah. But with that being said, y'all, appreciate everybody who listened live. Be back tomorrow again. Podcast out tomorrow morning. All that good stuff. Appreciate y'all for watching. Peace.
Okay.